I cannot believe I'm filming this video. It is 25 degrees outside right now. And we're talking about autumn inspiration, autumn projects. I guess I'm gonna have to call this video fall inspo because the majority of my viewers on here are American, which I love. Hello to America. So here are 4 project ideas. Also, before we get started, I just want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. A few people have already spoken about this on TikTok, and also Lainey Ozark did a video on this, talking about how there aren't any autumn trends this year. Autumn style, autumn fashion is just the same every year, especially this year. It's just the same as it has been before. So I'm not going to go through any specific trends because we all know what to wear this time of year. I don't need to explain that to you. So how I wanted to structure this video instead is, first of all, I went back to my sort of bucket list video for the year and went through the things that I haven't done yet, because I essentially have 3/4 months to pick up any of the things I wasn't able to tick off yet. Then the other factor I wanted to take into account is, what am I going to wear this season and how can my projects be in addition to that? So I just really want to maximize the wearability of my pieces, especially this season. I feel like the majority of things I'm going to show you are knitting ideas. However, if you only crochet, then don't leave this video, because I think the inspiration can still apply to crochet. My reasoning behind focusing on knit, I think, is that winter to me is more of a knitting season, whereas I crochet a lot more in the summer. And I think the reason for that is that I wouldn't crochet a raglan jumper if I can knit one. I think crochet comes more into play when it comes to accessories like hats and stuff. So without further ado, I just want to very briefly go through my autumn like clothing inspo, because like I said, a lot of the projects that I want to make and that inspired this video will be based on what I can add into my wardrobe. So naturally, it is a lot of muted colours. I love the idea of, as we're kind of going through the transitional periods, pairing mini skirts and shorts with like hoodies and jumpers. I really love that kind of juxtaposition. But if we're looking at sort of the colour palette in general, like I said, it is very muted, and I think that is something I really need to keep in mind when I'm thinking about my colour palettes when I'm doing my projects, because I love gravitating towards very colourful yarn, but then the finished project isn't very wearable for me because my inspo is literally this colour scheme. Greys, beige, blacks and browns with a hint of primary colour, like a cobalt blue, a red and maybe a green. That's the extent of it. So the first thing I want to talk about is probably the biggest thing, and that is colourwork / intarsia. I don't know how you say that. I get so paranoid every time I say a word I don't know how to pronounce, because I feel like people are going to drag me in the comments. But you know what I mean. When I put this on my bucket list at the start of the year, I knew this would be the season for me to do it. I realise right now my outfit is so summery, and maybe I should put jumper on. I'm really not in the mood for that. I need to put jumper on. Bear with. There we go, that is a bit more on theme. I'm going to be absolutely roasting, but let's just stick on all that. The first pattern I wanted to share is this Norma sweater. This is absolutely beautiful. I love the stripe design and I love how different it is. Like the kind of like, I don't know, interrupted stripe design there is so cool. I feel like this would just look so great with any colour, and this whole design just looks so wearable. Like, this is 100% something I would buy in a store, and I think that's actually a really good sign, because a lot of my jumpers that I own aren't made by me. I just buy them in shops. So if I can make projects that I genuinely would buy in like H&M or Zara, then I think that means it's a good project. Then if we're really talking about some proper nice colourwork designs, then this is so cool. I love these little I don't know, like motif designs. I think it's amazing. Obviously this could then also be turned into a jumper if you just add on some sleeves. It is so cool. I also found this really random pattern. It's just a frog, but I love the colour scheme of this. I like that the base is very simple, but then the design at the front is kind of a bit more colourful. It's just so good. It's only £2.64 as well. Look at all the other vintage designs that this person has. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with this one. I'm actually obsessed with schnauzers at the moment. I get so many schnauzer videos on my TikTok account. This is adorable. Then I talked about Josephine's patterns in my favourites videos. I love her patterns. They are so simple, so easy to understand. And this teddy sweater is beautiful. I am obsessed with this design. Like, the stripes are so simple, but the way that they are integrated sort of at the top half of the jumper, and then with this like thick turtleneck. She is so clever. I am literally obsessed with her. Then when in doubt, I always like to go on the Drops Design website as well to get some inspo, and especially their vintage designs. Basically, if you go on their website and you click on a category, skip through to the very last page and start looking through from there, because those are all the old vintage patterns that they published like back in the day, I guess. And I found this one, which is so cool. Like this is very much the kind of jumper that you would find in like an overpriced vintage store where they price it at like £60, but it has like a massive hole in it. But imagine making that now, like fresh and new. I think that would be so cool, and it's so impressive. And I really love this color scheme. I'm obsessed with the blue, white, red combo. It's like my favorite color combo ever. I also really love this design, the sort of mix of the cable with these like red flowers. Again, very vintage feeling, but if it was made new like now, I think it would just be so beautiful. So that's all the kind of color work inspo that I looked at. Obviously there's so much other color work that you can do. I am being very selfish with this video, and I kind of just want to talk about the things that I will be drawing inspiration from. So this is very much a no bullshit inspiration video. Everything that I'm sharing in this video is literally what's on my list and on my Pinterest board and in my head for when I'm planning the upcoming projects. Now the next category is raglan. I made my first raglan project a few months ago and I'm obsessed with it. I will 100% be making more, and so I just wanted to share some of the patterns that I have been looking at, considering. The first one I wanted to share is the Easy Evening sweater. It is fully ribbed, like from top to bottom, which I find very interesting. One of my favorite jumpers that I have from H&M is fully ribbed, and I never really considered that as an option for when I make jumpers, but it is so beautiful. I think I was definitely drawn to it because of the color. Like, this is my favorite color ever. I would love to make this as even more of an oversized fit. I think that would be so cool. Then I was looking at the Petite Knit website. I've never done one. Maybe I have. I think I might have done the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit. I might be wrong, I don't know. But when I was saying about things being kind of like store bought or making projects that I would buy in a store but I can't afford them because they're like 50 quid. So instead I'll spend 50 quid on yarn and like 50 hours. So then actually it turned out more expensive, but that math kind of seems to make sense in my head. I don't know. Petite Knit is very much like that. All the designs are very simple, very basic, but some of them really stood out to me, like this Amy sweater. Again, I think I'm very much drawn to the colors, so if they're using good colors then I'm instantly drawn to it. This very much reminds me of that famous toast jumper, which I'm obsessed with. But yeah, I like the shape of this. I like how it flares out at the bottom. I don't too much like when they go in around the middle. And then this turtleneck is beautiful. I love the length of this as well. It feels nice and boxy, exactly how I like them. I like how the cuffs are a bit wider as well. I just like everything about this, really. I love how rounded the edging is. I don't know if I'd have the patience to make a jumper in such a small stitch size. What do you call that? I'm sure there's a term for that, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's small. You probably use like a small needle. What needle size do you use? 3.5 mil. I will not be doing a jumper in a 3.5 mil needle. No, maybe a 5.5. I'll push. I think that is why I saved this one, the marble sweater. This is so beautiful. I am pretty sure this is very similar to the Amy sweater, but this seems to be a bit more of a chunkier one. And oh my god, guys, how incredible is this jumper? This is so beautiful. I mean, is this not just the same as this one? I feel like it is. Yeah, I mean, the ribbing is completely different. This one has more of a turtleneck, but I guess I could always adapt this a little bit to match it, the shape of the other one. I love this sort of variation yarn that she's using. Again, there's a word for that, but I forgot. I'm not very technical, am I? But yeah, this is just beautiful. No other words. I also saved this one, the Louvre sweater. I think what I really liked about this one is the depth of the neckline. It obviously is like a turtleneck that goes up quite high. It also starts very low. I think that is really beautiful. And the arms are a lot thicker here, like they go really long, which I love. I think those to me are often the most comfortable jumpers, that sit really low, kind of like this in terms of the arms. I don't want it to sit right in my armpit. Okay, before we move on to the next category, I just wanted to take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Skillshare. If you didn't already know, Skillshare is the largest online learning community with loads and loads of classes by actual industry professionals, which range across so many different categories, from film to illustration fashion to interior design to just general productivity, basically anything that you might need to take your careers, your hobbies, or your side hustles to the next level. I recently saw this TikTok where someone was talking about how it doesn't make any sense that our calendar year starts in January and that it should really start in September, and I have honestly never related to anything more in my life. I feel like my brain very much still operates within the like school year calendar, so whenever September comes around it feels like such a fresh start. It's also my birthday at the start of the month, so for me autumn very much feels like a time of reflection, and this week I've been setting some new goals for the upcoming year, including improving my productivity. Skillshare's come in really handy with classes and learning paths all about productivity, and so I took this class on Notion to improve my like general skills with the platform. I already love Notion. I use it every single day. Honestly, my entire life and my sanity probably relies on that platform. So I really wanted to learn a bit more because I felt like I wasn't really using it to its full potential. Skillshare has also announced some new developments, including some smarter class categories and 3 new class topics, including creative careers, creative inspirations, AI and technology. Plus they also introduced the ability to search for classes based on software and materials, so it's really easy to filter exactly what you want to learn more about. If you are interested in also giving Skillshare a go, then the first 500 people to sign up using the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Thanks again so much for sponsoring this video, and let's move on to the next category. I have made cardigans. I always give them away, so I really want to just make a cardigan for myself. I really love this zipper sweater by Petite Knit. I love how oversized this one is. Again, the arms lay very low and the zipper is just so cool. I feel like I just really want to give it a go. It gives it such a like finished look. Now I talk about this pattern all of the time. This brand in general, they're my absolute favorite, and yet to this day I've not made any patterns of theirs. I don't think I have. That's actually shocking. But this collared cardigan is so gorgeous. I love how they do it with like the color blocking. It's so cool. But it's just very simple. Like I love the raglan. I love this button detail, and the collar is very cool. I guess the way the collar lands, it can be adapted because I'm not 100% sure whether I would wear something with like a polo collar. But I guess you could always just attach it so it's like a double folded neckline. And then we have another cobalt blue project. But this cardigan is very cool. Again, it is a raglan one, but I love how thick the ribbing is at the bottom here. It's so interesting. I also like how wide the sleeves are. Again, I don't know why I always taper my cuffs. There's no need to do that. You can just keep it wide. It just looks so comfy. It looks so comfy and cozy, and I'm obsessed with it. Then I'm always looking for ways to make my projects more interesting, more relating to my attention span. If my goal for autumn is to make things to match my wardrobe, my color choices are going to be very muted, and oftentimes I use vibrant colors to just keep me a bit more interested in my project. If I'm not doing that, I think I'm going to get very bored. So I thought of like 3 different sort of methods or techniques that I can include into my projects to make things a little bit more interesting. The first one is cable knit. This one is very obvious. I have made 1 cable knit jumper this year, so I have technically ticked that off my bucket list or to-do list, but I would love to make another one because they are just so, they just scream autumn to me. The cable knit jumper that I made last time was a very thick cable design. I used one that was similar to this. I believe the one that I used was more of a vintage one, so yeah, it was this pattern that I followed, which looks quite similar to this one. I guess this is just like a modernized version, and I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun working on that. However, I think I want to try maybe a bit more of a fine cable instead, more of a detailed one, just like this one. It's the Snowy Trails design on drops. I love this. It's very much giving Harry Met Sally, Knives Out, that kind of vibe, which Knives Out is the ultimate autumn film in my opinion. I love that film so much. But yeah, I think something like this would definitely keep me occupied, just challenge me a little bit. I think it'd be really fun. Then another thing, I haven't really got a pattern for it because it isn't really like a pattern in itself, but I want to integrate more garter stitch. I always say this in pretty much all of my inspo videos, but I love when garter stitch is integrated into bigger projects just to give it a bit more texture. I especially love it when you're working with stripes and you do the garter stitch sort of the wrong way around so that you can see the color change happening. Like I said, it just gives it so much more texture and it makes it just a little bit more interesting. So I am currently planning a upcoming jumper that I want to work on, and I'm integrating garter stitch into that as well. I just think it's such a clever tool to make things a little bit more interesting. And then the third thing, which I haven't done too much of, I did one project this summer, and it's to integrate some lace designs. Again, I haven't really found a pattern for this because when I look for it, everything is a little bit too cutesy and too full on. I just want to kind of utilize it as a detail. I especially love this inspo photo where they did it with kind of like it looks like a cotton yarn, and I really like how obvious the like lace pattern is. I've really gone into my cotton yarn recently, and I really think it's underrated for autumn winter projects. There's just something about like a thick knit jumper made with cotton yarn that I just love for some reason. I don't know. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how I will integrate that. I couldn't really find any like good inspo. It just kind of makes sense in my head. If you have any like inspo, any patterns that remind you of this kind of like lace design, then please leave a comment. I'd love to have a look at it and yeah, get a bit more inspo for how I can sort of integrate that into my patterns. Then a couple more random ones to sort of wind up the knitting part of this video. I want to talk about scrap yarn projects. I feel like autumn is such a good season to get rid of your scraps and just make one big jumper using all of your different scrap yarn that you've laying around. The reason why I think this is better for autumn than for any other seasons, I mean autumn/winter, is that if you have a lot of scraps laying around, a lot of the time those yarns might be different fibers. You might have some mohair, some wool, some acrylic, some cotton, and either way, all of those things are going to keep you warm. The reason why I feel like you can't really do that so much in spring/summer, definitely not summer, is because you don't want any wool or mohair fibers in your summer projects. It's gonna irritate you, it's gonna make you sweat. It's just not very functional. Whereas in this sort of colder climate, it doesn't really matter as long as it keeps you warm. So this is the perfect time to, yeah, plan out all your different scraps. You can make a nice stripy pattern. You can hold your yarn twice, double it up, make something really thick, and just be a bit creative. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is really fun every now and again. I love to do a project where I'm not following a pattern. I'm not following a certain like gauge. I'm just going for it. And this is just the perfect season to do that. So definitely a really big inspo for me this season. Then I also, this is really random, I found this free pattern for a vest and I just wanted to share it with you guys. I thought the design of this vest is perfect, it's simple, it's got the basic shape, and there's no need for you to buy a pattern to make a vest. You can always adapt the pattern yourself. I started following this, but my gauge was really off, so the circumference of it turned out too small. So I'm now turning that into a jumper instead, just because I don't mind a jumper being a bit tight on me, whereas a vest, I'd want it to be a lot looser and a lot boxier so I can wear things underneath. But I really thought the pattern was fairly simple, and yeah, if you're on the lookout for a good vest, then this might be the one for you. Now in terms of crochet, I did want to mention it. Obviously all of the inspo that I talked about before does also apply to my crochet projects in one way or another. However, the thing that I am always obsessed with when it gets a little bit colder outside is granny squares, mainly because I use like scrap yarn for all of my granny squares. So again, the same sort of idea applies to this, where if I'm using like loads of different fibers, then it will only be worn in the colder months. However, saying that, all of my granny squares so far have always been very random. I have always really enjoyed them. I love the colourfulness of it, but I would love to be a lot more intentional with the colour palettes of my granny squares. In particular, planning it out so that the wider project of the granny squares creates a pattern in itself, so that it doesn't become very apparent that they're multiple squares together. It just seems like one big pattern. I am just obsessed with that idea. I love the planning aspect of it. I love that as you're working on it, you can see the pattern slowly becoming one big thing on its own. I'm not quite sure yet how I would create that, whether I'd just make one big blanket, if I'd make a jacket out of it or a scarf. I'm not quite sure. I'm still kind of letting it ruminate in my head a little bit and letting it cook, you know? But yeah, other than that, I just love a good stripy design, a simple like raglan design, and I love a good color blocking detail, like a nice edge and a vibrant color. I think it's a really good way to make a piece wearable, but also a little bit more interesting by integrating that color. Also, one project I will 100% be doing, and I need to do it this year, otherwise I'm never going to make these videos ever again, is this scarf by Lovecrafts. I think I've shared this in multiple of my inspo videos, and every time I say I'm definitely going to make this one, I haven't made it ever. Yeah, to this day. And I just this morning had my yarn delivered for this project, and I will be making it. I will share it in like an upcoming video. I'm not quite sure yet when, but it is going to happen because I love this pattern. I just think it's gorgeous. It combines granny squares, but it's not too overwhelming. It's not too over the top. It's just so lovely, and it's going to happen. And yeah, I believe with that, we are done. That is everything I wanted to share. I do apologize that this video seemed very much me. This is what I want to do, but it just feels different this season. I'm not sure. Hopefully it gave you some kind of inspiration. I will be doing the same concept for winter when it starts to get really, really cold, probably more like December time, because winter apparently is December, January, Feb. I feel like ever since my favorites video last week, where I thought that summer ends at the end of August, and I was so wrong. I'm so unsure of how the seasons work. I'm so confused. But there will be a winter one, and I'll probably talk a lot more about some accessories, scarves, hats, bonnets, lots of exciting things coming there. I would love to hear about your autumn projects, things that you want to make this autumn. You shared some amazing patterns with me in one of my summer videos. I got so much inspo, and I find it so interesting to see what everyone else is working on. So please, please, please share in the comments again. And yeah, I'd love to hear about that. I am now going to bake a cake because it is my birthday tomorrow. And yes, I'm baking my own cake, not because the people in my life don't love me, but because I love baking. And I always bake for other people. Obviously, that's what you do. And I just want to bake a cake for me, and I want to eat it all by myself tomorrow. Yeah, exciting. Actually, I'm not going to tell you how old I'm going to be. I want you to guess in the comments. I feel like I'm going to be humbled big time. But no, I won't be offended. Guess in the comments. Don't cheat. Don't go on my Instagram. I think you might be able to figure out. Guessing someone's age is actually a terrible game. I don't know why people do that to themselves, but I want to hear your thoughts. Anyways, I'm going to stop chatting. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.